Good evening. Good evening. We are here for the Impact Podcast yet again. So excited to be here with you guys. We have a treat tonight. We have a treat now. You know how we do. You don't know where this is going. We don't know where this is going. Why? Because because it's always real people having real conversations, providing real resources. And so we love to flow, and that's exactly what we're going to do tonight with our amazing guest, Shira Williams. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let Dr. Obiama Martin introduce her. It looks like she may have dropped off, but that's okay because she'll come right back in.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that we get to. Here she goes. All right.
What
I want
happened?
to make no problem. I want to make sure that Dr. Obiama sets the stage so that
Yes.
we can properly receive Shira because I know here's one thing I want to kind of share a little bit with you guys because I want to circle back to that. She mentioned before we got on that she is a hustler, right? And I was like, oh, where's the marriage? Because we got to talk about that. We got to talk about that. But I'm going to pass it to you, Dr. Obiama Martin, to introduce our guest as we begin to talk about beyond traditional roles.
Absolutely. And so I get to introduce Shira to you guys. She is not only a coach, but also a therapist. And she is definitely the person who helps not just women, but families, right, kind of get their life and has been doing this work for over 20 years. And so I get to say we're alumni together because we both went through Lisa Nichols Certified Transformational Trainer program, and we get to welcome you now, Aaliyah, to this prestigious group of transformational facilitators, right? But I want to jump right in because I was sent a clip. I was sent a YouTube clip, and it was this black man, and it was kind of like an interview, and he was talking about how he loved his black women, however, because he's curious, he wanted to find out what was the fascination around Japanese women, and he began to interview black men who were with Japanese women, and what he found based on what they were saying was there's no pressure. That
Mm,
was the common thread. There's no pressure. The Japanese women don't apply pressure to their man, to their husbands. They don't have to, be or do or anything like that. So the person that sent it to me, I immediately snapped back and said, of course, Japanese women are not going to apply pressure because they are culturally
Mm.
raised differently. Just like the black man is culturally raised differently from the Japanese man. I said, however, what we need to do is stop pointing fingers because the grass is greener where you water it, where you nurture it, where you protect it, where you got it, where you sustain it. Come on, where you pour into it. That's where the green is, that's where the grass is greener. So if we could just take a step back and start taking responsibility for our contribution to the things that go wrong instead of saying that it's a black, a white, a Asian, or whatever, we will be in a much healthier place in relationships, period. So when we talk about coming out of the traditional role or and not being boxed in, we have to really come out of this angry black women, that whole perception of black women is so aggressive. We're aggressive because we gotta be,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
We aggressive because we gotta fight and protect for everything. Nothing is given to us. Right,
Exactly.
we don't have legacies, we don't have generations, we don't have things that's handed down, and for generation and generation, what is somebody stealing, right, ends up being our floor, and vice versa. And so we're constantly trying to break through ceilings that has been set for us because of the color of our skin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just
Mm. You
Open
said
it
a
up.
lot. Mic drop on that. Definitely.
Let us welcome Damaris. Hi, Damaris.
Hey, Damaris.
I didn't want to interrupt because you were just dropping nuggets. I was like, whoa, what did I just watch? We
Dig right
only
in.
in what within 3 minutes. I was only 3 minutes late, guys. Wow, that was powerful. Hi,
Yeah.
everyone. Hello.
Hi. Yeah,
Yes,
you said a lot.
Obiama definitely, yeah, definitely set the stage. So, based on what, yeah, based on what Obiama said, Shira, based on the work that you do, based on your background, just so we can get a sense of who Shira is, how would you respond to what Obiama, or how would you respond to that Asian man? It was the Asian man, or you was
Japanese.
the
Japanese.
Japanese man. How would you respond to the Japanese man in regards to traditional roles? And that can be based on women, a wife, a business owner, with whatever role that you choose. I'd say that.
Well, wait, before you respond, it's the black man. So the Japanese man, like, he's clear. It's no thing. It was around black men marrying Japanese women, and the black man interviewing other black men who married Japanese women. That's
Mm,
the context.
yeah. And it's crazy that this conversation it has been discussed so highly amongst my group. I have a diverse group of friends. So I will go back and say I was raised by two black people, two black parents. Um, well, let me say this. I was birthed by two black parents. I was raised by one. And so that sets the stage that I was brought into a home with a single black mother who had to do everything. And so I think when we are speaking, we have to understand where this person is speaking from, because we speak from our past, we parent from our past, and whatever your experiences was, whatever you are surrounded by, that's what you tend to desire. You desire that. I desired to want to, I saw it on Huxtables. I wanted that whole family, but ultimately I was dealt with whatever was in front of me. And so culturally I lived in a hood. I didn't see a lot of two parent households. So I had to fight for that because it was a dream of mine. And so when I go back, I actually did marry, and I tell my daughter I had my daughter with purpose, on purpose. I didn't have her. I mean, and this is no knock to anyone because I work with pregnant moms. I had my daughter within wedlock, but I married someone who had 3 kids already. So I was parenting 3 kids at 22 before I even had my first child. And the reason I could do that is because of the foundation that I was standing on, that I was brought up under. And so when I hear someone speak about that, it's because they were not exposed to that. So they have to speak from what they were exposed to. They're desiring to want that submissive woman, but unless you were able to go handpick that woman and understand, it's just not the reality.
Yeah.
And I hate that aggressive that we get. We get it at work, because I'm very passionate about how I feel about something. And so there is aggressiveness in our voice because we're passionate. We are strong. We feel like when I talk about my black daughter, and I tell her what to go out here and I say, this is what I want you to look for, I'm passionate. I'm speaking because I don't want her to have to succumb to what my mother did. And even though my household did not stay unified, and that's what my book is about. It's talking about going from coexisting to co-parenting. I broke that barrier because it was basically stated that statistically she was not going to make it because she came from a divorced family at 3 years old. When you look at me and her father now, when you see us parenting, people think we are still together because I refused to succumb to that statistic. So you have to be intentional about breaking those traditions that are passed down to us. When I look back, my mom will be 69 next week. Never been married. Never can. Traditionally, everybody was doing that, and so it was like, if you're around it, look what you're gonna go for. You got to get outside your comfort zone. This is getting outside our comfort zone because we're talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
conversation is not being had because it was taboo, or you think you're a little bit better, so you're talking about something that's not possible, you know. And even though, you know, my marriage did not succumb to what most people would see as a successful marriage, to me it was successful. You just have to ask yourself what that success means. What is your success? Everybody's success is different. The fact that I have a daughter going to a college, graduating this year, literally from two parents, I feel like it's a two-parent household because we were there through the whole walk. That's success to me. Not a statistic of like, oh, you know, not that. So when I think about that Asian woman that is now with that Black man, I mean, patience is definitely probably. I mean, I know I'm not built like that woman. I know I'm not.
But you also wasn't raised like her
exactly. Exactly. I'm not built like her physically, and I'm not built like her mentally. But can I learn from her? Yes, I can. Can she learn from me? Yes, she can. Because guess what? It's going to be something in that marriage that she's not going to understand how to deal with that Black man. She's going to have to do her homework, and he's going to have to do his homework. And that's the key. If we're willing to do the homework, everything can happen. Anything can happen. We got to do the homework. How you going to get in a relationship and not do the homework? That's why, and it's a lot of times I was in relationships, I wasn't doing the homework. I'm like, he should be out. Why he not acting like this? Because the homework wasn't being done. I wasn't paying attention to the body language. I was too busy hearing him, not listening. You know, people don't understand that you hear somebody, but when someone listens to you, there's an action, there's a change that happens. So, you know, yeah, I mean, this conversation can go on and on. And to be honest, I would love to see an Asian woman amongst this conversation. You know, and it's funny because I told I have a diverse group of friends, and I have white friends, and I have my one girlfriend who's Filipino who's married to a Black man. And it's funny because you would think that she's Blacker than most of us because she like live in the hood, all this stuff. And I'd be like, yo, like it's just, I'd be over here like you don't got no Black in you. But it's her exposure.
Yeah.
She was raised around Black people. And this is why we get this thing where people say they act Black. What were their exposures?
Yes.
That's what you got to ask yourself. There's a formula that I think I even shared it before. It's DQ plus EQ. Let me say DQ plus EQ plus GQ equals your IQ. So we all know IQ is your intellectual quotient. So I'm sorry, it's GQ. GQ plus EQ plus DQ equals your IQ. I usually write it down, but in my head. So GQ is the gene. We have no choice. Now we do if you got the money to go pick and choose what you want to have, but we have no choice where we were born. And, you know, right now people changing it. That's another story. I'm a woman. I identify as a woman. So therefore, I am a woman. So my gene now plus my EQ, which is my exposure and my experiences. This is where you put the box around the heart, you highlight it. This is going to be so important because anything that you are exposed to, anything that you experience is going to ultimately affect the DQ, which is what you desire.
Yeah, I need you to run that back because this is this is delicious right here. I see Damaris like, wait a minute.
I mean, there we go. I love that you put it in there.
Damaris
taking it in. I'm soaking it in. I'm listening. I'm listening. Keep spitting.
Yeah, run this back. Run it back.
So your gene, whether you were born a male or a female, right? A lot of us don't have any choice of that. But then you have plus so GQ plus EQ. So your gene plus your EQ, which is your experiences and your exposures. This is where we hone in at right here. What you are exposed to, what neighborhoods, I spoke German. I took German from kindergarten to 11th grade. So when I walk into a room, I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. We are a German town. When we go to our German festival, I'm down there and I'm like, sprechen Sie Deutsch? They like, what? This Black, yeah, I speak German. And so they're like, because I was exposed to that. I experienced it. So therefore now I desire to, guess what? Go to Germany. I desire to further my language even more because when I go there, I want to be able to still speak the language. I want to be able to fit in. Ultimately, what does that do? That affects your IQ because now you're intellectually able to have conversations outside of your comfort zone. You can't really talk about certain things if you're not experienced or exposed to it.
Mhm.
So that's why I say put the heart around the E, because that's important for our kids. We need to. My daughter's getting ready to go to a HBCU. Guess what she did? She played lacrosse.
Nice.
Lacrosse. My daughter's the first person in our family to ever play lacrosse. Let me tell y'all, she the only black on her team.
Now,
Lacrosse.
now, this is a great example about coming outside of the traditional roles of women. I mean, not only is she minority, but we don't know anybody. We don't know anybody that who child, male or female, plays lacrosse,
And
right?
guess
Like
what? I'm out there.
that's not a sport that is associated with Latinos or Black people.
No, it's not. And
What's lacrosse? Which one is that?
lacrosse
Just
is the
Lacrosse.
stick with the little basket on the end of it. The
So
stick with the
I do
basket.
have there's a high school and a college that I know, and I've been exposed to lacrosse, and I do see some mixture. There's more mixtures now, right? More other races going into it. But it's very interesting. I want to go back to your theory of EQ. I've never heard. I can relate, right? I can relate because I've been through every stage and still going through that, and put the heart around, right? But it was very interesting that you put it that way, and I love it. I was born Latina, right? Um, and with an expectancy of having babies, because that's what my generations did, right? Having babies by the age of 16, because that's what was expected of me. And when I said absolutely not, right? And had a baby later on in life, I was the first out of my family not to have a baby in my teens.
Mm.
I was the first in my family to even graduate high school and go to college and have a business and do all this other stuff. So it's pretty interesting, hearing you say that. I can go back and relate to where I've been. And something I want to say, and I think it was Obiama that you was talking, I didn't want to interrupt, but I dated a Jamaican guy once, right? Because of my family, I wasn't allowed to date out of my race. They didn't want that.
Mm.
But I didn't care, right? I dated this Jamaican guy and I loved him. He was such a great guy, so sweet, and everything. He wanted to bring me home to mom. I've never dated a black man since then. And I'm going to say that, my husband is dark, very dark, he looks black, but that kept me, meeting his mom, kept me from dating out of my race.
Mm.
Your experience with mom.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. She looked at me, looked at my hair. She went, at least you have pretty babies. I was like, what? Don't you ever touch me again? Yeah, they hated me. They hated me. And it took me such a long time to really understand it, right?
Mm.
It took me a long time. Now that I'm older, I get it. I understand why I wasn't welcomed,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right? I understood why I wasn't good enough,
Yeah.
right? Um, but it kept me from that, right? It kept me from that. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I think what resonated with me for sure when you were speaking about experience and exposure, our children are exposed, right? Technology, social media, all that stuff. I was right where you were. Cosby girl. Like I was going to have a Cosby family. That was it. I was raised in a household, mother, father, brother, had a child care in the home. It was typical middle class home, mom entrepreneur, dad had veteran, right? So all that to me was typical, but what I saw on the Cosby show, like that to me was the exposure and it identified what I wanted. Interestingly, I do, in my opinion, have the Cosby family. May not be as traditional. I didn't have to give birth to all 6 of my babies, but it definitely set the stage. I was a kid though that the stereotype or this here's what it's supposed to be. I just even now I'm like, the limit you put on me, that is not
Mm-hmm.
my limit. Like I'm going to have a Cosby. I will never forget. I was told previous relationships, like you live in this utopia. but it was in such a negative connotation. And I was like, it's a utopia to you. It's reality for me. And so I think if anything, and not everyone has the opportunity to dream like that. I know that people come from different spaces where they may not be able to even dream that far or dream that big, but I feel like that exposure is a huge part of all the cues that you mentioned, because it starts to frame your mind in regards to where you believe your life can go. And so that was my Cosby Family. That was it. That was it for me.
I hated the Cosbys.
Did you? Oh my God. They were like a
Everybody I speak to about families and life, they always reference the Cosby Show, and I never saw them like that. I
no.
actually
What did you
resented
see?
that show.
What did you see?
I used to look at them like you're such liars, because that's not something I saw.
Mm.
I knew it was fake, and I thought that that was something that I was not able to reach,
Mhm.
touch. So I saw them as lies. I saw them
Mhm.
as actors lying. Now, good times I
Mm.
enjoyed,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
So that's where
Yeah.
JJ would get in trouble because
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
had a JJ, the
yeah.
mom and the deaths, the traumas that I was able to relate to.
Mm.
Cosby Show, hated that show.
Mm.
It's so funny. What I'm hearing is
Wow.
for you, and your two different perspectives is that Leah wanted that. So for her, she envisioned it, and so she placed herself in that. And you saying like you rebuked it because you couldn't put yourself in it. And I
Yeah,
think those are the two parallels. Is that when you want something, you place yourself in it. In there like I can do this, and like you said, you're gonna figure out how to do it. I'm not gonna have 6 kids, but I'm gonna figure out how to, and that's what I wanted too. I wanted that whole family. I knew I wasn't gonna probably birth out them people, so I was okay with, okay, let's blend this, let's make this, let's figure this out. And I think even now, and I think that's the part that I love now, is that you do not have to have the traditional now. You can foster, you can adopt. I do like the ceiling that has lifted from that. The woman has to have all these kids, because back then the woman was having, these were all her kids.
Yes.
yeah.
My grandmother had 8 kids. Like
Yes.
she was having all these. I was like, oh no, I'm not. I don't even know if I want one. Like I was just, and they were like, "What?" I'm like, I think I'm a adopt, or I'm gonna get somebody with some kids, and that's what I did, because I was like, I didn't want kids. So I think that to me is nothing wrong with that. Gives you the opportunity to dream and make it what you want. You saying the marriage, Mr. Marriage, like I didn't like that, but I related to JJ. JJ, I loved him. He was so funny, but I was like, no, they don't look like they got enough money to me. They look too
Yeah.
close to what I'm at right now. I need some money. I want to go upstairs. I always wanted to go upstairs in the Cosby house.
But
I don't know what was going on
let,
upstairs.
let me tell you something. I think it was because I could relate to their struggle,
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Okay.
which made me hungry,
Mm.
right? So it's weird. I'm just gonna just say that,
I
that
don't think
always
that's weird.
reminded
No,
me.
yeah, I don't think it's weird either. And even I'm listening to you, Damaris, and perspective is just amazing, because as I'm listening to you, I'm also just so for me, I absolutely love the Cosby Show, but I never desired to have a Cosby family. I only desired to have the house.
Mm.
I was in love with the house. I loved the stairs that went into the kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
love the stairs that went into the living room. I love the doors. Like I
Yeah.
was in love with the house, not so
Yeah.
much the people in the house.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So my desire was, what do I need to do to be able to earn so I can get
Mm.
a house like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I was detached because that wasn't my reality. So I
Mm.
was detached to, and then I don't even know if I want that. I don't want the kids. I don't
I
know
didn't
that
want
I
none of
want
that.
all of that, but the house is what I want. I want the house.
That's funny you say that because now I'm looking, I can see the stairs, you know, the brownstone, and I'm just like, I wanted the house. I did. When you said that, I was like, I wanted the house because,
Yeah.
and I didn't grow up. I didn't grow up in a house. I literally grew up in a shelter. I grew up sleeping in the car. So the struggle for me was I was living a lie. So in my mind, I would to escape here when I was in school. I'm going to school with people that's going to Australia for the summer. I'm coming home like I went down the street to the candy lady, like
Right.
literally because I'm in school with people that don't look like me, and it's a bilingual school. So that's what saved me is to be able to live vicariously through these other kids and listen to their stories. So I'm like, when I grow up, I'm going to this place that I heard her talk about. This is so funny. I heard a girl, you know, tell everybody where you go, and it was like, "Where'd you go for the summer?" She said, "I went to Cedar Point." And I turned around, I said, "To Cedar Point of what?" And she kept saying, "I went to Cedar Point." I said, "To Cedar Point." I didn't know Cedar Point. I literally, I thought she was saying Cedar Point. I said, "Cedar Point of what?" I'm like, literally. And she must have just, and this is like 5th grade. And to this day, I was like, I'm going to Cedar Point. That little girl, she talked about that in 5th grade. So to me, I wanted that.
So where's Cedar Point?
Cedar Point is in Sandusky, Ohio.
Mm.
So I live in Cincinnati, so it's a little bit up. It's like an hour away, maybe hour and some change. But when she was saying to Cedar, I thought she was saying to see the point. And I'm just like, so every time somebody told their story, I envisioned myself going there.
Wow.
And even to this day, when people tell stories about where they go on vacation, I try to visualize it. And I'm like, yep, I'm going to go. My cousin talked about Dubai. I was like, yep, I'm going. I went. My 40th. I went to Dubai. I just, because they say when you start putting your mind there.
Absolutely.
And I believe I manifested it. I was like, I'm going there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and it's the same thing though, in this whole conversation about, you know, the non-traditional roles, because how is it that the 4 of us had such a different, right, perspective of the Cosby Show, right?
Wow.
We had such a different perspective, but the 4 of us also had a very different upbringing. I think Aaliyah is probably the only one out of the 3 of us that had the 2-parent household, right? I didn't grow up in a 2-parent household. I grew up on the street. I was house to house. I didn't have my own room. Right? So it's so many things that for me, I could not, I didn't have a point of reference, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, very much like Damaris, all I know is hustle, because all of my life I had to hustle, right? Yep. Right? I don't know what it's not to work for what I want. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't know what that is. I've never come from the space of the damsel in distress and, oh, I'm going to look pretty so this man can take care of me and pay all my bills. That was never my mindset. My mindset was, I ain't asking the man for nothing because I don't want to put myself in a position where he going to have control over me because I don't have money to do for myself. I'm going to do for myself so I can do for myself.
And I think that right there is so, it's such a trap for us, I think, because that's how I was. I was like, I'm gonna get out here, and I did. And my girlfriends who are like been married, you know, they're like, you got to learn how to be a little bit needy. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah, I can't get.
And I didn't understand. Yeah. Like, you got to learn how to.
I just want to listen. I married a very machista man, right? Been with him for 23 years. I love him to death. And I had to one day, you know, he said to me, I wear the pants in this house. And I said that I'm the belt that holds those pants up. So yeah. And either we're gonna figure this out or, you know, yes, I'm gonna respect you as my partner. And I think that came from my upbringing, right? You know, just like Obiama has said, and seeing my mom go through so many relationships and abusive ones as well, right? That's something that guarded me, and it took me a long time to love and to let go and to trust, right? All of that, you know. And I love my husband because he's just so understanding. I mean, he puts up with me. You gotta love him. But I definitely am strong because of that, because I've what I've went through, right? And one day I just manifested, just like you said, the vision, and I said I wasn't brought to this world to be poor.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my hustle came from.
Mm-hmm. And I
And
think
guess
that's,
what?
like you said,
At
a state of
21,
mind.
I had my first business in the streets without a degree, hustling.
Mm-hmm.
So you can
Yeah.
do it. You can do it. You know, if you keep your mind to it, right? You set your goals and not let your past or the things that you go through hinder you, keep
Mm-hmm.
you keep you behind. You know, I have a family. I have 4 daughters. I have 2 grandkids. I have stepsons. I have stepdaughters. So yeah, and I have a Cosby house. How about that?
You really do. You definitely do.
Cosby
Absolutely.
house. Yeah.
Absolutely. When you said that, I was
I
thinking
was like,
you
yeah, I was
definitely have
picturing
a
it.
Cosby house. You
I have a
definitely
Cosby house.
yeah.
I don't have the characters. I have the actual house, right? Because
Yes.
whatever. But we we're not perfect, right? But we're a family.
And
So
that's what's important. And so that's the whole thing. And Shara, I would really love for you to just kind of like talk about that from the lens of a therapist, the trauma and the pressure that has been put on us when we step outside of what society says we should be, can do, and all of those things like, oh, well, women shouldn't be this and women shouldn't do that. Or if women are married, how are they going to also be a boss? Or how are they also going to be a mom? Like the duality of
Mm,
us wearing all these different hats. And then what happens is we have this superwoman syndrome where we end up being pleasers, we end up being caregivers, we end up, being and doing all of these things, meanwhile neglecting ourselves because we are constantly trying to prove that we can be all things to all people instead of just being.
yep. Yep. Okay. First of all, I don't know if you manifesting this, but about me being a therapist, but because I'm not, but I am a life coach.
Oh, where did I
But
get that from?
I don't know. I think because I just give off that energy. I do have a side job called cocktail therapy because, you know, anytime you're a life coach and you do bartending, you give therapy. But I've actually been a mental health therapist. So yeah, I have a mental health background, and it's crazy because, yeah, I wanted to be a therapist, but I did not want to go to school that long, and so I actually got into the field of working on the psych floor, being a mental health therapist. Which I don't know how they gave you that title, but
That's where I got it from. I
yeah.
know we had
Yeah,
conversation about your
I
mental
do.
health background.
I do have a mental health. I've done it for, oh my gosh, on the psych floor for an abundance of years. But um, I love this conversation with the women that are in this room because I can relate to so many different levels of having to shrink, and I don't believe in shrinking and being small for someone to be bigger or to be quiet, so that they can feel like a man, but I do, from a biblical standpoint, understand the strength of my tongue,
Mm-hmm.
because I came from all women. My grandmother had all girls, and there was only one that had a man. And he, to this day, she's been married to him since she was. My aunt's been married to him for years, 50 some, 60 some years. But I think that the reality of it is, I'm 47 now, and I'm just now growing into not trying to look for the validation. um because it was like, don't talk too loud, don't be too promiscuous, don't speak too much. It was just all these things, and then it was all the doubts from the man that was supposed to give me my stamp of approval, which is my father, my biological father, which my heavenly father definitely gave me. But I feel like your confidence comes from the father that births you.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
um and so I was not given that, so I just started to find it in ways that was probably not the healthiest,
Mm-hmm.
which was almost like approving, like I gotta prove to you. So I always have my chest out to prove to someone that I can get it done. Like literally anything I just wanted to prove. So I think that's where that strength came from. And that's where I stayed in the driver's seat a little too long. And every time I was in the driver's seat, a man loved that. But I would be in the driver's seat so long that I would be looking over at the passenger seat like, you don't want to take the wheel?
Right. That
And
part
they might
right
touch
there.
the wheel, but they wasn't really taking it. And then if they did take it, I didn't have enough trust which way they were going. So I'm over here grabbing it too, like, well, wait a minute, we're going the wrong way.
Yes.
Because I couldn't trust, because I didn't grow up trusting that.
Yes.
And so I think that what I'm understanding now at 47 is that you can explain where you came from to a man, but it's hard for you to really mesh those two lives if both of you are not really ready to sit back and say, okay, and revisit that, like really revisit it. And that's a lot of work when you talking 47 years old and you set in your ways. It's a lot of work for somebody to be like, I understand. They say it, but then the reality is they don't understand what it requires for you to feel safe enough to hand over the wheel. That may take years. Damaris said, like, she shook her head when she was talking about her husband because she knew what type of woman she was.
Mm-hmm.
And it does take a strong man, but yet still enough man to be able to say, provide, because I wanted all these things, but I was too busy doing it. I didn't give you enough time to do it. I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my girlfriend said a long time ago, let your car break down. He won't let you. I said, I wish I would let my car break down.
Right.
just so he can feel good that no.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't understand that. And I still don't understand that. So I'm in this phase now where I have a daughter who's now going into this dating phase, and she has a father. But to be honest, her father came from a single Black woman. That's why we meshed so well, because I was his mother. Mm-hmm. And he said it. I made sure credit, everything was like his mom to this day, like, oh, you was me.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm seeing him at 50 something years old start to walk into his manhood and really, and it's like, wow, but I was with you when you was 20 something.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't wait till you got to 50.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to wait. I wish I could have figured it out, but I didn't know how. Do I regret it? No.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, I don't know. That's the gap that I think is going to really take us with kids right now. That gap, because we're still going to parent our kids from that past.
Mm-hmm.
We got to be intentional about it. Like, how are you not going to parent your son from that single, strong Black woman? Because that's what you know, especially when you don't have that other man inserting himself. And I think it takes a lot for us to, I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, it's a formula. I think that somebody in AI going to figure it out. You can drink. I think somebody going to come out with a drink and it's going to be like, here go the drink. And now everybody good. I'm waiting them to come out with a drink. You can just mix the dude up. Give me a little bit of humor. Give me a little bit of it. And now you got you a man that you created yourself.
Oh, like y'all remember? I used to love that Weird Science.
Oh. Yeah.
It's gonna take a Black woman to do it.
Yeah, so Weird Science. Yeah, something I wanted to say. It really made me think back, even to being in my household. Right, speaking of traditional roles, I felt like there weren't traditional roles in my house. My mom was very, go-getter, hustler, ran a business. Right, she was, that was her energy. My dad, he was a provider, but he was, I guess, very traditional, right? He had a city job and did all of that. But I remember watching their dynamic and honestly not wanting what I saw. And so again, I still had my Cosby thing, but I also wanted to be the more submissive wife. I wanted, to kind of, give my husband or, he'd lead the house and fix the stuff around. Like I wanted all of that stuff. But what I now realized was huge that I didn't know, and this it made me think of this, Shira, when you were just talking. A few years after this happened, my husband told me that my father, they had a really long conversation, and he was able to tell him who I was and give background and say, a lot like her mom in these ways, so be patient with her. And so I really didn't know that happened, but I'm so grateful too, because I think it helps set the foundation so that he could know how to handle me. And
Mhm.
having the father that I had, like that was a high bar. My thing used to be, I don't really need nobody because I got my daddy. Like,
Mhm.
and if you don't come,
Mm,
if you don't come correct, like I got my daddy, right? And
mhm,
so I feel like because I had, the father that I had and everything, and the mother that I had, it took me time to kind of find the balance of what I really wanted in my household. Like, what role did I want to play? Because I
mm,
had choices, and because, I saw so many things, and because I kind of had that kind of manifestation type thing, like I want that, I see that, I want that. But when it came to being in a marriage and being in a household, I really had to find what made me feel whole and made me feel right, and not necessarily what was stereotypical or what was traditional. And so I say that to say, to me, it was a dance. Nobody really had the answer. I had to find it within my house, within my marriage, and we had to decide what was traditional for us. So yeah, that was my experience.
I love when you said that. Like, I think that that's the things like I, I'm shunning now what quote unquote traditional roles are. Um, I fought so many years for the man to be able to handle finances, but I never handed over my finances. I'm like, I need you to know how to do these finances. Well, here, let me get your paycheck. No, you just no. Like that's where that trust could be. Like when I hear women like at my job say like my husband handles all the finances, I cringe. I don't know why I cringe. Like I don't even know what I don't know anything about that, and I just be like, how you not know? Like, but that's a fear too, because me not knowing means that I've given over control. So therefore, I don't want to release control. So there has to be a balance between giving over some control and allowing that person to feel like you guys can do this together. Um, yeah,
So
I
I will say that it's definitely a dance. It's definitely a dance, and for me, I want to say I've kind of come full circle. So once I was introduced to, Proverbs 31 and the Proverbs 31 woman, I so wanted to be her. And I wanted to be her because specifically in Proverbs 31, it talks about how her children rise up early and call her blessed, and how she gets up and she commands her house and she tells her maid servants what to do, and then she goes into the city and she sells her merchandise, and the people in the city knows her husband because of the work that she does, right? And that's not something that's talked about, but she is definitely the woman that I want to be, because she's an entrepreneur, she's a mom, she's a wife, she holding it down. She is holding it down. Now, here's the thing though. As much as I wanted that, um, and my marriage, I did not have um, I didn't have the partner who could who had the capacity to be what he needed to be as a husband, so that I could be who I wanted to be in my submission, right?
mm.
So I submitted in the beginning, and I just was like, I'm going to be this submissive, wife, and I'm going to allow you to do you or whatever. And so my first year, I was married 18 years, but the first year, he was like, I don't want you to work. I make, enough money and da 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 da. And 11 months in, like I submitted to that, right? But 11 months in, after I had my son and 11 months being home, I was just like, this ain't working for me. This,
It's
this,
for the birds. That was
this,
for the
this,
birds.
it's not working for me because I'm too accustomed to having my own. And then not only that, it feels so weird to have to ask you for money. Like it feels very foreign to say, can I have some money because I want to go to the store? Like I ain't asked nobody for no money so I can go to the store. Like I ain't with that.
Right.
I ain't with that, right? And so because he wasn't, now in some people relationships, they have a man that gives them an allowance or always make sure they got pocket money or street money or whatever, and that works. And if I had that, then I wouldn't have needed to feel like I gotta ask, like I ain't asking you for nothing. If I gotta ask you, that makes me I got to be on my grind, because you should be giving it to me, right? But if you don't have the capacity or you're not built like that, you're not conditioned, right? So no fault to him, but just understanding that's not who he is. That's not how he was, raised in his manhood or in his husbandhood to care for me like that. I'm not going to ask you. Once I had to ask you, I got to have my own.
Yeah.
I got to have my own, right? So a lot of my control and my aggressiveness and my passion comes from, you got one time. You got one time to show me who you are, because I'm going to believe you and I'm not going back.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So for me, is kind of learning, is unlearning and learning. Right. But I'm clear about who I am, and I'm clear that I can be submissive all day long. But if you show me that you can't handle my submission, then I'm going to be who I'm going to be.
That's the part I don't
I'm
think is.
I'm not submissive at all. I'm sorry. I'm the fire in this relationship. Like, between Obiama and Aaliyah, and I'm just gonna say this. I I've learned how to slow down,
Mm,
right? Because I noticed we were bumping heads, right?
mm,
And I understand that my husband was brought up that the woman stays at home. He's the homemaker, and that submissiveness. And I was not, because of my youth, I never wanted to be that way. That's just not who I was. We knew we loved each other. But something my sister-in-law once told me, and it stood with me. She said, "You can be submissive and still be who you are. You just got to learn how to puppeteer correctly."
yep. Yep. They
You
don't
know, and
teach that to you when you in your I didn't get that. It was too late.
yeah, yeah.
We need to.
And
I'm telling you, they need
and
a.
I
There's so
learned
many
that,
classes they should be
I
teaching in
learned
school.
that. So I
With
learned
how old were
how.
you?
Yeah,
How old were you when you learned
I
it?
mean, we met when I was 20. I was 21. He was 26, right? I mean, we've been together. I'm 50 years old now, right? And he's 50, whatever.
So when
Give
did
me a
your
little bit.
sister tell you that? How old were you when your sister told you
Oh
that you
yeah,
did?
we were like we were on the brinks of breaking up, probably in my 30s,
Yeah.
right? Because it was just ongoing fighting. We were about to get divorced. We were just over it, And she said to me one time, she was like, it's about learning how to puppeteer, and that's interesting to me, right? Because I learned that. I said, well, let me try this. So I'll say things like, "Hey, how do you think this would work?" And
Gotta make
he's
them feel like
like,
it's their idea.
right, right. And then
Even
he'll
me
be like,
saying it, I'm like, ugh.
yeah, because I already know, because obviously I already know my husband. I know how the way we think, right? So I know what he's going to think. And he'll be like, yeah, I think you should do it this way and this way and this way. I'm like, you know what? You're absolutely right. Thank you so much. But I already had that idea in my brain. I just know how to puppeteer it out of
But
That's
him.
you know what
right.
you also probably had? Let me ask you, do you have enough you had enough respect for him to even want to
Absolutely. I
that's
had to learn
once you
that.
lose the
Yeah.
respect,
Yeah.
that that role to do
Yeah.
that is hard. So the respect has to align with you being able to transition into that role of like, let me fake it. Because we've all faked it at a job.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not like it's you can't. I mean, we do it when my kids used to be like, why you talk like that when I used to sell real estate? Why you talk like that when you're on the phone with clients? I said, you're
You
gonna learn to get
fake
this
it.
place too.
Yeah.
So we all do it, but I think what it boils down to is the respect you had.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, all right. This
Interesting
was
with the submission part. Just a last little note, even with the submissive part and control. Um, I, I always felt like, being so much in control at work and like, entrepreneurship and all that stuff, it's a point when I don't want to be in control. Not that I don't have any control. I
Right.
just don't want to be in control of a number of decisions and stuff. Not that I can't make them. And like you said, Shira, right, the respect is there. I think we also know how to play that dance, right? It's kind of like, well, go ask mommy, go ask daddy. It's not one sided. And
Mhm.
just really to wrap up that whole traditional part, I think ultimately traditional is what you make it for all of us, right? This
Hmm.
is my traditional role in my home. I don't do laundry. I hate it. That's now. There's other stuff that I do. So ultimately, us being true to ourselves and defining what we want those roles to be in whatever setting is exactly that, and that's traditional for me.
The new traditions to keep this conversation going for, I think, younger women, especially because the ones that are coming from how we were brought up. If we can pass down some of, like, to the other young girls, that's what I do now, because I feel like if I was given this type of energy and this advice is not trying to learn chemistry and stuff, I needed to learn this, because
Yeah.
chemistry didn't mess up my relationships. Not knowing where Africa was or Europe or how to spell, that didn't mess up my relationships. What messed up my relationships is not really understanding how to navigate confrontation. Not understanding the roles that roles didn't have to be. It's just like religion. We are still moving away from certain things that were just religion. I think that's the problem. It's like I love God, but if I had to wear a skirt and stockings all my life, come on now, I don't do that no more. I can go to church like this.
Yep.
That's what makes you hate being in relationships, because of that role they keep putting on it, that the walls.
Mhm.
But if we can take it down the walls and say there's no limit to how you can do it, you just make it yours.
Mhm.
This to me, giving me more, even like, even though I'm in the midst of going through what I'm going to, it's like to be able to be in amongst the women, hearing you guys talk like that, I can say, hey, let me call Obi, be like, Obi, okay, tell me something, girl, because I'm about to go through it. I'm about to sabotage
Right.
another one.
Right.
That's the conversation. That's where the 911 calls need to come in,
Yeah.
when a sister need to call you and be like, I'm about to mess up, girl.
Yes, that's
Help
good.
me.
Yeah.
But that takes I feel like that takes it sounds like everybody's here has gone through some rough times in their lives to be able to get up and keep going. Our these young girls nowadays, this youth nowadays, um, society expects a different side of them, if that makes sense. You got these social media, and you have, all of this stuff happening in this world, and they built differently. And no matter how much you tell them, hey, you should do this in your relationship, or you should go this way, I feel like we as parents are fighting with social media. Things look different nowadays than when we were growing up, right? Um, I don't know. I just needed to say that because I'm going through something with my own daughter and trying to help guide her, and it's fighting society, and it's not like she ever saw like a single parent household. Never. She didn't see me drinking. I didn't have men in my house. I don't do drugs. I work, did my thing. So we were good role models. But I feel like there's societies. I just feel like there is a force that we face as parents sometimes, right? Um, yeah, just wanted to say that because we want to teach our kids, right, and lead our youth and to help them with relationship building so they don't go through what we went through,
Hmm.
right? But these kids are built differently. This
Well,
youth is built differently.
so everything is different, right?
Yeah.
Everything is different. But I do want to wrap us up
Yes, this will
because
be
we
part
did.
two. Part two.
Yeah, we definitely this conversation was so juicy and delicious. We definitely need to have a part two as we kind of just pull back the layers of all of the wonderful things that kind of came out of this. This was just so good. So for those of you that are listening in, Shira has a book out called Live, Love, Prosper, and the proceeds goes to different charities. This is a collaboration book with women from all over the globe, and the work that they collectively came together to do is absolutely amazing. Shira, where can I get this book from?
You can actually get it on Amazon. It's actually on Amazon, right? Live, Love, Prosper. For those that are in my city, of course, I've done some book signings and I've been able to personally deliver it and sign it for them. But it is definitely on Amazon right now. Yeah.
Live, love, and foster.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'm a co-author in that. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I'm breaking the walls down of just how you don't have to no longer coexist when you're co-parenting. You know, you can move from that.
And again, you know, this conversation has been around the non-traditional roles, and that's why we got to bring you back to talk about how you can co-parent and coexist, because that's another conversation that we really need to talk about. So we're going to end right there.
Yeah,
We're going to end right there.
Because the next time we're going to be talking about Alicia Keys, all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I actually would love to have my ex on with me if we ever do something that me and my ex are looking to, because I'm getting a lot of conversation from the men that want to hear from that person. They're like, you telling your side, I want to hear his side of it. So yeah,
we're going to circle back. We're going to circle back in the fall, and we will definitely have the both of you on. Ladies, I think this will be such a great, I would actually, what city are you in, Shira?
I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio.
I'm coming.
Is that about 8 hours from Philly?
Girl, probably is. I don't even know. Probably so.
Because I'm thinking, Aaliyah and Damaris, I'm thinking this would be great for the November summit.
I was there. Yes. I think we have time to put that together.
Yeah. I think.
Y'all let me know.
We're letting you know. We just let you know it's November 2nd. You have been served.
Yes.
This
has been your official invitation.
With your husband. With my ex.
Your
husband.
Yeah.
Her husband. That's going to be a great show. All right, you guys, this has been another great episode of the Impact Podcast. Great people, great conversations, or I should say real people, real conversations, right? We'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your evening, morning, day, wherever you're listening from. Bye for now.
See ya.
Thank you, Shira. Good night.
Good night. Reach out if you need to.